Nobody writes about what happened at Balmoral that November. Not in any file I have access to, and I have access to more files than most people would find comfortable to know about. Not in the internal correspondence. Not in the protection logs, which are thorough to the point of tedium about everything except the things that actually matter. There is a 3-week period in the estate records that is accounted for in the most administrative sense. Staff rotas, meal schedules, heating maintenance requests, one incident report about a deer that got through the east fence, and contains, somewhere inside its bureaucratic ordinariness, one of the quietest and most complete acts of human decency I have ever had the accidental privilege of witnessing. I was there to archive protocol documents, 31 years in Royal Household Records, the last 12 as senior archivist for ceremonial correspondence. And what that means in practice is that I have spent the better part of my professional life in rooms adjacent to significance, cataloging the paperwork that significance generates, and occasionally, rarely, carefully, noticing the things that don't get written down. I had a filing cabinet. I had a radiator that worked on its own schedule, which is to say not mine. I had 3 weeks and approximately 400 documents relating to visit protocols from 1987 to 2019 that needed cross-referencing before the digital transfer. I had, as far as I knew, nothing else. I had no idea what I was about to watch. Balmoral in late November is not the Balmoral of the photographs. The photographs are summer, the green hills, the white-dressed family, the particular golden light that the highlands produce in August as if in apology for the other 11 months. November is different. The hills go gray-brown in a way that isn't ugly exactly but is deeply, specifically honest. The light quits before 4 o'clock, and when it goes it doesn't linger. It simply stops, the way a conversation stops when the person who was holding it together leaves the room. The cold is wet, and it gets into things. It got into my document paper within 2 days, made the older files curl at the corners in a way that would have distressed me more if I hadn't had so much else to think about by then. The estate in that season runs on routine the way a body runs on breath, not thought about, not chosen, simply continued because to stop would require a decision nobody is prepared to make. Staff arrive at their hours, the kitchens operate. The grounds are maintained with the particular Scottish thoroughness that treats mud and dead bracken as a personal affront. Vehicles move along the estate roads at the times they are scheduled to move. The gates open, the gates close. Everything continued. That was the thing about those 3 weeks. Everything continued with extraordinary, almost aggressive normality. And underneath it, something was very quietly being held together by a 28-year-old protection officer from Herefordshire who, as far as the official record is concerned, was simply doing his rotation. I noticed Marcus Webb the way you notice a recurring word in a document before you understand its significance. He was one of 3 officers on the perimeter rotation. The other 2 I registered, and then forgot in the way you forget competent professionals who are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Webb I kept coming back to, not because he did anything differently, because of what he did that was the same. He was always already there. Whatever position he was supposed to be at, by whatever time the rota required, he was there before it could be said he was required to be there. Not eagerness, nothing so readable as that. Something more like the habit of a person who has learned that time is the one variable they can actually control and has made their peace with spending it in advance. He was lean in the way that people are lean when they spend significant portions of their life outside in cold weather. Dark jacket, working uniform, not ceremonial. A face that would have been unremarkable if it weren't for the quality of his attention, which was remarkable in the way that very quiet things are. You don't notice it directly. You notice the absence of inattention, the lack of drift, the sense that his awareness of any given space was complete and current and cost him nothing to maintain. I noticed him on my 2nd day. I placed him on my 4th. By my sixth, I had started, without fully deciding to, keeping a loose account of where he was when. He was always at the south gate at 6:40 in the morning. That took me until day 9 to understand. The lady, and I will call her the lady because that is both accurate and because the alternative is a specificity I am not going to commit to paper, had been at Balmoral since early October. She had arrived with what I was told was a reduced staff. Reduced is the institutional word for it. Reduced in the way that a thing is reduced when the substance has been removed, and the form maintained so that nobody has to acknowledge the substance is gone. Her schedule for those 3 weeks was, from an official standpoint, empty. Not empty in the way of a private holiday, empty in the way of a room with the furniture taken out. The engagements that would ordinarily route through the main household office were not routing there. The correspondence that would bear her name in any public-facing capacity was not being generated. A protection detail had been maintained, because to remove it would be a statement, and the institution had decided that the correct move was not statement but silence, which is a different and in many ways more sophisticated instrument. She was still there. She was simply no longer in any functional sense visible. What she was in those weeks was a woman who walked every morning at 6:30 along the estates in her perimeter road, alone, in weather that did not invite company, and entered the wrong gate code at the south gate at 6:40 every single morning without fail. Not a different wrong code each time, the same one. 4 digits, I will not record them here, that had been the correct code until 8 months prior, when the security rotation changed and the codes were updated as they are on a standard cycle. She had been given the new code. I have to assume she had been given the new code. But every morning at 6:40, in the grey pre-dawn of a Scottish November, she put in the old one. And every morning the gate opened. I found out about the gate code from one of the household staff, a woman named Bridget who managed the kitchen rotas and had the specific combination of loyalty and practicality that long institutional service produces in people who are also, fundamentally, kind. Bridget told me over the kind of tea that gets made when the good kettle is occupied. Standing in a corridor outside the service entrance, with the manner of someone passing on information they have decided you need without entirely deciding to tell you. The gate mechanism had been quietly adjusted, she said, not officially. Nobody had issued an instruction. It had simply been arranged so that the old code worked, so that the gate opened when she put in the digits she always put in. I asked how long this had been the case. Since about 3 days after she arrived, Bridget said. I asked who had arranged it. Bridget looked at her tea. I didn't ask again. There is a kind of professional competence that announces itself and a kind that doesn't. The announcing kind is easier to work with in certain institutional contexts. It generates the paperwork that justifies its own existence. It produces the visible outcomes that can be cited and commended and built into the official record. The kind that doesn't announce itself is harder to account for. It leaves almost nothing behind. It operates through absence. The thing that didn't happen, the moment that didn't become a scene, the person who didn't have to face something they weren't ready to face. Marcus Webb had arranged the gate. He had not been asked to. There was no protocol for it. There is no entry in any document I have access to, and I have since looked methodically, the way I look for things I already suspect are not there, that records this as a decision or an action or even an observation. It simply existed. The gate opened. The walk continued. The lady came back to the house at 7:15 with mud on her boots, and the particular quality of stillness on her face that November mornings at that elevation either create or reveal. And Webb went back to his position, and the estate continued on its rotation, and nobody said anything about any of it. He had looked at a woman quietly dissolving inside a form that was no longer connected to substance, and he had done the smallest possible thing that would let her continue to believe, for 45 minutes each morning, that the world still opened for her the way it always had. That is not in his job description. That is not in anybody's job description. The Tuesday it almost came apart arrived without announcement, which is how Tuesdays do. I was at the archive window, a narrow thing, more suited to ventilation than observation, which I had nonetheless been using for both, when the car came through the main gate at 2:30 in the afternoon. Not an estate vehicle, not a staff car. A principal vehicle, dark, unhurried, with the particular weight of official business in its pace. I knew the plates, 31 years, you learn the plates, and I understood within seconds what the vehicle's presence meant. A senior family member, unannounced, on a Tuesday. The lady was on the south lawn. I could see her from the archive window, or rather I could see the dark shape of her coat against the pale brown grass, 200 meters away, facing the tree line. She had been there for about 20 minutes, standing the way people stand when they have come outside not for air, but for the particular privacy that outside provides when the inside has become unmanageable. The car stopped in the main drive. The door opened. Webb moved. Not ran, not rushed. He moved in that way I had already cataloged by then, the continuous, deliberate pace with nothing wasted in it, from his position at the south gate along the interior path that runs parallel to the drive. He didn't go toward the car. He went to a position along the low stone wall that separates the main drive from the south garden. And he stood there, and the geometry of where he stood meant that to reach the south lawn from the drive, you would have to either acknowledge his presence or take a significantly different route that would require a decision and a purpose. He had positioned himself as a choice, not a barrier, not an obstruction, a choice placed in the path of an encounter that had not been requested and had no protocol, and for which no preparation had been made. The senior family member walked from the car to the house, directly, the route that did not involve the south garden. Whether this was the intended route all along, I cannot say. Whether the slight pause at the car door, 3 seconds, 4, was consideration or simply the natural hesitation of stepping from a warm car into cold air, I cannot say. What I can say is that the lady on the south lawn did not turn around. She stayed facing the tree line. She did not have to decide anything. Webb walked back to the south gate, stood at his position, looked at the tree line. The car left 40 minutes later. The lady came inside at 4, just before the light went. She passed within 10 meters of Webb on her way back to the house. She did not look at him. He did not look at her. There was nothing in that non-exchange except what was already there, the quiet, continuous fact of his presence, which by that point she had to have understood was not accidental. She didn't acknowledge it. Neither did he. That was the whole of it, 4 minutes perhaps, one spatial decision. The estate continued. I spoke to Thomas Calder 6 weeks after I returned to Edinburgh. Calder had been an equerry for 11 years, different household, different decade. Now private citizen in the specific way that people become private citizens when they have spent long enough inside the institution to know what privacy actually costs. He had been recommended to me by a colleague who described him as someone who understood how protection actually worked, as opposed to how it is described in the literature. He met me in a coffee shop on George Street, ordered nothing, and spent the first 10 minutes asking me questions about what I had observed, with the manner of a man verifying a survey before he agrees to add his own data. Then he sat back. Protection work, he said, gets documented as physical intervention. The lunge, the move, the 4-second event that someone like me might witness and spend years thinking about. That's what ends up in training manuals and after-action reports, and occasionally in the kind of journalism that treats competence like heroism, because it needs a legible shape to put in a headline. He looked at the table. But the majority of the work, he said, is not that. The majority of the work is reading a person's state on a given day, not their security state, their human state, and calibrating the perimeter accordingly. Understanding that the threat today is not the man at the barrier. The threat today is the encounter. The principle is not resourced to survive. The phone call that will come if a certain vehicle reaches a certain point. The moment of exposure on a given morning when the wrong person turns a corner. He paused, picked up a coffee cup that wasn't there because he hadn't ordered anything, put his hand back down. The hardest assignments, he said, are the ones where the institution itself is the source of the exposure, where the person you're protecting has been placed by the machinery that is also supposed to support them in a position of sustained vulnerability, where the danger isn't external, it's structural. It's the shape of the days they're being asked to live through. I asked what you do with that. He looked at the window. You do what you can, he said. Within the remit, mostly outside the remit. You make the gate open. You stand in the geometry. You are present in a way that says, and this is the part nobody writes down, you are present in a way that says, I see you. I am here. Whatever has been removed, this has not been removed. He stopped. That's not in any training manual, he said, but that's what the good ones do. Here is what I have thought about most in the time since. The institution maintained the form. The protection detail, the rotas, the vehicles, the gate codes, the schedule continued to exist as structure, as paperwork, as the official record of a thing being done. The substance of what that structure is supposed to provide, the sense that the people responsible for you have not withdrawn, had been quietly evacuated. The form remained. A hollow form, maintained so that no formal decision had to be made, so that no statement had to be issued, so that the machinery could continue to run while producing nothing of consequence for the person inside it. Marcus Webb had been assigned to guard the hollow form. He had decided, apparently on his own and without instruction and without the possibility of commendation, to put the substance back. Not fully, not in any way that addressed the structural reality of what had been done. He could not give her back her engagements or her correspondence or her place in the visible apparatus of the family. He could not change what had been decided above him and around him, and entirely without reference to anything he thought. He was 28 years old and from Herefordshire, and he had a perimeter rotation and a south gate and a set of gate codes. And within that, only within that, he had done everything it was possible to do. The gate opened. The walk continued. The lady came back with mud on her boots. I keep thinking about what it costs to do excellent work inside a structure that has already decided the work doesn't matter. To bring the full weight of your competence and your decency to an assignment that the institution has hollowed out, because the person inside it still exists, still walks out at 6:30 in the cold and puts in the wrong code and deserves, regardless of what has been decided about her visibility, her usefulness, her place in the order of things, deserves to have the gate open. Not because she's a principal, not because the protocol requires it, because she is a person in a hard season, and the small mercy of a gate that opens without correction is the kind of mercy that costs almost nothing to give and lands, in the right circumstances, like a hand on the shoulder in a dark room. That is not a thing that gets written down. I'm writing it down now. My last morning at Balmoral was the 23rd of November. I had my documents boxed and cataloged, and the radiator had, in a final gesture of either reconciliation or indifference, been warm all night. I was at the archive window at 20 to 7 with a coffee I had made properly, for once, because I had found the good kettle, and I watched the South Perimeter Road in the pre-dawn gray, because by that point I had been watching it for 3 weeks, and it had become the thing my eyes went to without instruction. She came out at 6:30, dark coat, the same walk, not slow, not a stroll, the purposeful pace of a person who has decided that movement is what the morning requires and is delivering it to herself without sentiment. The estate road, the south gate. 6:40. She stopped at the panel, entered the code. The gate opened. She went through, continued along the outer road, the tree line on her left, The hills beyond it doing what November hills in Scotland do, existing in the grey with a patience that is not indifference, that is something older than either. Webb was at his position. He had been there, I knew by then, since at least 6:15. He stood with his back to the gate panel, eyes on the outer road, on the tree line, on the middle distance that protection work seems to require as its habitual focus. He did not look at the gate when it opened. He did not look at her as she passed. He looked at the hills. The gate closed behind her. He stood. That was all. That was the whole of it, one more morning in a sequence of mornings that had produced no incident, no drama, no 4-second event that anyone would photograph or describe or turn into the kind of story that gets told afterward. Just a gate opening for a woman who needed it to open, and a man standing in the cold making sure the world held its shape for 45 minutes while she walked in it. I finished my coffee. I went back to my boxes. I filed my reports in Edinburgh and did not include any of this. That is not a dereliction. That is an understanding of what reports are for. They are for the official record, and the official record is for the institution, and the institution had already made its accounting of those 3 weeks, which was, nothing happened. From the institution's perspective, that accounting was correct. Nothing happened. The estate ran on its rotation. The documents were archived. The protection detail completed its assignment. Nothing happened. I read the notice 7 months later. Brief, administrative, the language of these things. The protection detail had been formally stood down. A relocation, the notice implied without statting, had made the previous arrangement unnecessary. She had gone. I had heard this through the specific kind of corridor information that travels through households without ever quite touching the official record to the continent. Portugal, one version said. Another said further. It didn't matter, finally, where. She had left. The hollow form had been formally dissolved, because even the institution could not continue to maintain the paperwork of a presence that no longer existed. The detail stood down. The gate went back to its updated code. The South Perimeter Road returned to being simply a road. I thought about Webb going off shift for the last time. Whether he knew in those final rotations that the assignment was coming to its end. Whether the knowledge changed the quality of his attention, or whether it was, by that point, simply what his attention was: constant, current, complete, and ending was just another thing it would encompass without drama when it arrived. Whether he stood at the south gate on his last morning and watched the tree line the way he had watched it every other morning. Whether the absence of footsteps on the estate road at 6:30 registered as a thing. Whether he gave it the 4 seconds it deserved. I think he did. I think it was quieter than cinema would make it. I think it was a cold morning and an empty road and a gate that would not open again for the wrong code, and a man from Herefordshire standing at his post accounting privately for what the last several months had been. The private arithmetic, running the numbers one final time, not grief, or not only grief, something more like the feeling of having held a thing together, of having been the last remaining substance in a form the institution had chosen to empty, and of having done that without instruction, without recognition, without any mechanism by which the work would be counted as work. He would have gone off shift. The uniform would have come off. His body, 28 years old and tired in the ways that bodies are tired when they have been cold and attentive for a very long time, would have been permitted to remember that it was just a body. Did he think about her? I think he did. Not with the weight that I am placing on it now, from the distance of months and the particular distortion that remembering imposes on things. I think it was quieter than that. The way you think about a thing you did that you know was right, but that you can't quite figure out how to place in the story of yourself, because the category for it doesn't exist in any form you were given. You did your job, except you did more than your job, inside the shell of your job, and the more will never be counted as the more, and the job will never reflect what the job actually was. The gate code was changed back. The road was quiet. He went home. I think about those 3 weeks when I am filing documents that describe protection arrangements for people who will never know the names of the people protecting them. When I am reading rotas and schedules and incident reports, and the vast administrative landscape that the institution generates to account for its own operations. And noticing, as I have been noticing for 31 years, the gap between what the documents say and what the days were. I think about Webb at the South Gate in the pre-dawn gray. I think about a gate code that should not have worked. I think about a woman in a dark coat walking out at 6:30 into a November morning that owed her nothing, entering 4 digits that were 8 months out of date, and the gate, without comment, without correction, without making her know that anyone had arranged for this mercy, simply opening. What it means to protect someone from the knowledge that they are no longer being fully protected. What it means to be the substance inside the hollow form. To bring your full and unremarkable and entirely unrecorded competence to the work of making sure that one person, on one road, in one hard season, does not have to know the size of what has been taken from her. The institution writes none of this down. Neither for 31 years did I. But I was at that window on the 23rd of November, and I watched the gate open. And I watched him stand in the cold, not looking at it, as if his not looking were the thing that kept the whole arrangement from becoming visible, and therefore real, and therefore something she would have to carry. And I have been carrying it for him ever since in the only way I know how. You write it down. You write it down because the official record will not. Because the gate code will be changed back, and the road will be empty, and the detail will be stood down. And the paperwork will reflect nothing except the correct administrative processing of an arrangement that is now concluded. And somewhere in that processing, in the gap between what the documents say and what the days were, there is a man who stood in the cold every morning and made the world hold its shape for someone who needed it too. No citation, no ceremony. Just the gate. Just the hills. Just the quiet, total, invisible decision to show up for a person that the institution had already decided to stop showing up for, made once, made every morning, made in the pre-dawn gray of a Scottish November with nobody watching except the tree line, and from a narrow archive window, one retired archivist with a good cup of coffee and 31 years of practice at noticing the things that don't get written down. This one does.